Well, all right. Hello, everybody. We're going to try this one out. We'll see how it goes. Uh, I have a few different topics, but I don't think I'm going to try to cover it in one time in one video here. I'm not even sure if this is the way I really want to do this, but nonetheless, we're trying it out. I'd sometimes like to just prefer to start with audio and, and then work video in there. And this way I can have separate files for everything, and I can do different stuff with the audio instead of having to split it. Nonsense. Anyway. But I do like this picture. Uh, Trying to pull definitely a little bit more from the video game side of my love of art. Where if I go back to it, that's cartoons. You could, like it probably gives it a run for its money, but really the love of art really came from playing video games. But that's for another topic. Believe me, I'll have many more battles and discussions and words. One guy I should get in here one day to talk about his perspective on video games, and I can just ask him a few questions. I think YouTube would learn a thing or two. Right now, the Fallen One only streams on his fans only page. So it is what it is. Maybe we can get him on here one day. But to get to what I want to talk about a bit, and I'm still having trouble with the title, but sort of the illusions of choice, or the illusion of choice from a world where there are very few who even want the choice given that the world offers. And also, is there free will in God's plan? Back and forth, sort of all throughout storytelling and this and that. A topic commonly covered is destiny. Do people have a destiny? Sort of a predetermined path of whatever. You can argue that some people were just born to be something, right? There are some people that are so great at what they do. It seems like God made them just for that. There are some people that we consider the greatest of all time, right? The common phrase. And arguably, right here and now, it's easy to determine that Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player of all time. There's nobody you can throw up against Michael Jordan's numbers, the way he played, all that stuff. There's nobody like him. Even kids that have never weren't around during the days of Jordan will go back and watch the games, and if they really understand how the game was played back then versus now, they're astounded. And their other greatest player of all time doesn't even compare. So they're a clear cut. People just seem that they were great at something. But I'm talking about free will in God's plan. God has a plan, and we may not know all of God's plan, but God has a plan. And for those on YouTube, if you don't know anything about me, which you don't, The God I'm talking about is Jesus Christ. But and that's the perspective I talk from. I've never called myself an all Christian content show, and I'm not doing that. But nonetheless, I talk about God a lot. Well, I talk to God a lot more than probably you hear me talk about God a lot. But in God's plan, God has a set plan, at least how our lifespan could see it. So, in a way, there's a factor of destiny, and you can say there's an absolute destiny, but it's also not so set in stone that God didn't give us free will. But it's always been a choice. Who do you serve? Who do you love? Who's your number one? Adam and Eve had that choice. You could say Lucifer made his choice. But even Bob Dylan, you got to serve somebody. And you know who he serves, or at least he said he serves. You're either serving the world, and the world is of Satan, or you're serving maybe yourself, which is still pride, which is leads right towards satanic thinking. Or do you serve Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Now, there are many other people that are going to put their own God in there. I can't help that. But this world, the illusion of choice. Think about all the choices we have here in America. If you take somebody from North Korea, and they've lived in North Korea their whole life, and you were to get them out of there, fly them over, bring them to any, let's just say halfway major city. You bring them to your local supermarket, and you bring them inside your supermarket. Not even your biggest one, just your mid-sized supermarket. They will be astounded by the choice of food that you have available to you. They will not even understand what they're looking at. There'll be stuff that maybe they've only heard of, only in their dreams could they ever see stuff like this. So without a doubt, there is choice, right? And there's some people that don't have the ability for that choice. But what I notice a lot, people aren't, and I can say for the most part, here in America especially, but let's say Western countries, whatever they think is the best choice, their ideology is mostly the best choice, and they will never deviate from it. A lot of social media, Twitter, X is filled with it. People posting all day long, and they're sages. They're gurus. They're the smartest, funniest, brightest, the best predispositionist, people that they've ever come across. There's no changing their minds because they've already got it figured out. And they're letting you know all day long. It's just filled with this nonsense of whatever they think and whatever they feel and whatever they're doing is the right thing. You see the saying, this is the way. Really? Is that the way? I see very little people actually growing. You see, when you come across a choice in a video game, back in the day, there were some parts, some video games, where you had to find invisible walls and go through them in order to even progress the game. Not even like a side quest, an optional thing, a bug. Nope. You have to find this invisible wall and go through it. And you got on the map, you can't even see, 5 pixels in front of you. You had to sometimes get real smart and figure out how to beat this game. Nowadays, people want everything handed to them. They want their choices explained to them. Sometimes you don't get that. And especially with God and His plan, you don't always get that. Shout out to Amy Jo, God Loves You. Amy Jo Truths here on YouTube. If you guys aren't following her, make sure you are. But she played the audio clip I did for what we learned from the battles of the Toast Core Chronicles. From the battle of the Toast Core Crisis. Sorry. I was mixing 2 different titles in my head. But the fallen one, by the way, is the one who started this Toast Core Crisis. And we're all still battling through it. But nonetheless, we continue. But she listened to the words, somewhat difficult to hear sometimes when I do these, when I throw an effect on my voice. And I think it sounds good in the moment. But then after a while, you're like, I don't know if that was the right choice to do that type of stuff. But nonetheless, I'm going to continue to be what YouTube would call very unprofessional. And that's just the way I roll here. Long-winded. Unscripted sometimes, and that's just the way it'll be YouTube. But I thank for those who have given me a follow, and we've grown in numbers. We're 21 away from being able to stream live on YouTube, and I'm going to continue to just promote and push. I would like the ability to be able to get a stream key and go live, and I can figure out what I'm going to do after that. So it'll be slow to go, but we're going to get there. And I thank for anyone out there on YouTube listening from YouTube. This is not your conventional show. Right now, I can't even play music, just because I'm worried it's just going to get copyright hit. I'm going to go try to find music that's not copyrighted. But going back to what I was talking about with Amy Jo, she played the audio clip from YouTube on her show, and she got the reference. I'm surprised. Like, you don't know a person. I don't know if Amy Jo plays video games. I mean, I'm sure she's heard of Zelda, but Aerith, right? And for those that were only going by the U.S. script Aris, Aris, but Aerith, you don't always get to save her. And it was the most spoil. Every kid in the world ruined the story for that. It happened. Her death happened early enough in the game where you had so much more game to go that, you know what most of the kids thought was, they're going to bring her back. So honestly, for the kids that were like, you know, just behind you, you wanted to sort of ruin their day. Let's say Aris died. And for those that only got the Aris, but Aerith died. And you were like, what? Don't ruin it for me. Because at that point, you were like, oh, it's early enough. It's not towards the end of the game. We could bring her back. We got Tifa still. That's what we kind of thought, because if you bought the game when it was released, not many kids beat it. There wasn't a crazy online presence for any of that stuff. And it was just a bunch of kids talking to each other. We didn't know how big of a spoiler alert it was even going to be, even though we were devastated by the loss. And it seemed like no matter what you did, if you wanted to play the whole, from the beginning up till that part again, and made different decisions, and kids have played it a million different ways since then to try to see if you could just not lose Aerith in any way. But you don't always get that choice. And there are ways to keep her in your party, actually. But it's using an exploit bug on the game. It's not the true changing the story version that we all tried to see if there was a workaround for. You never know. They could have made it so difficult that they wrote it into the game thinking that nobody would ever even be able to do it. So who knows? But that's what we thought at the time. But no matter how they tried, only by using an exploit and not playing the game any differently than what the rules were set up as, you couldn't do it. And this has nothing to do with the re-releases, the regurgitative releases, where I knew that they were going to do this. They're just going to convolute the story, make it difficult, and you don't get the solid answers that you thought you would probably get. But the graphics are nice. Gameplay was smooth. But it's filled with a bunch of stuff you don't want to do. So the reason why Final Fantasy, the original game, was great, your choices did make the game different. You can get different scenarios, stuff like that. But overall, you knew why you were fighting Sephiroth in the end. You knew why you were going against evil. And there was no going back and changing it. So when they do these stories of being able to change time and change the original, what made it great, I don't think it helps anything. The original game should have had that level of dynamic built into it so that fans could have already been adapted to something like that because it's in the original. But you cheat, to me. Like the Back to the Future, when they go back to the first movie and they try to change the events, it doesn't work. Because what you're saying is the original was all garbage. We could change it even though you didn't ask for it. Why? Because we're not creative enough to do anything different. But in this world, in this life, as much as technology, this, that, and the other, secret space programs and uh, crazy technology that's off the wall charts, stuff we could only see as still science fiction. It's not easy to go back and redo anything. And usually when you do, you end up screwing it up even worse. That's why I don't love going back to redo an old art piece unless there's a real clear objective or reason, where usually the first one was a failure, dog shit, and now you can make it great somehow. That could work. But taking something great and redoing it for the sake of trying to recreate the same magic, that's a plan for disaster. The only reason why is because you didn't build it with that capacity. It's a standalone piece that makes it great. So in a story, when you write something and you build up so much only to tear it down 2 books later, 2 movies later, it makes no sense. The way we experience our lifetime, we know there's no going back. The only choices that usually the shitty choices that the world is offering us. What poison food do you want to eat today? It's all poison, most of it. Pick your poison. Oh, you want technology? You're going to have to pay a lot of money for it not to be pure crap. But it's still going to spy on you. So, you want something new and shiny? It's going to cost you. The illusion of choice. Well, you could pay for less money and get even pure crap. There's no sets. There's no ability. Who wants the choices that are being offered? Is what it comes down to. Our money, it's been stretched so thin. It's almost not worth buying this stuff you would normally buy, because you know it's just a waste of money. So the illusion of choice is you're walking into Baskin and Robbins and you realize all the ice cream flavors are pretty much chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and pistachio, just rearranged with different combinations, and it's the same ice cream. All the soda choices you could ever pick from, especially from, the 90s, pure poison. Especially now, it's even worse. But no matter what you really picked, it was all poison. It could still take rust off metal. If it doesn't matter. Some will just do it a little quicker than others. So the illusion of a multitude of choices sometimes does not mean you actually have any choice. But it's just the illusion of. God says, well, what do you choose? Do you choose the world? or do you choose me? I think that's really the only choice. In free will, are we taking away from God, or are we adding? Is it taking us away or bringing us towards God? Whatever choice we do make, or whatever under the illusion of choice that we think we have, are we doing it for His glory, or are we doing it for our glory? Are we worshiping the world, or are we worshiping God? And if people want to break it down into sort of the hippy dippy language, love or fear? Because God, obedience to God, when you love somebody and you're in a relationship and you have respect, sometimes you obey them. Where normally, if somebody walked up to you on the street and said, "Hey, you better fold that laundry," you might not fold their laundry. You might get into a fight with that person. When you're at home and your girlfriend looks at you, or your wife looks at you, and it's all your shit sitting there in the laundry basket. Sometimes you might obey them. And if they love you enough, who knows, they might have folded it for you. Depends on how much respect and love and honor and cherish goes around, right? 50-50? I don't know. For guys, I tell you the truth, we got to work double sometimes. Sometimes it's making a choice that we don't want to make. And even doing something we don't want to do. But because we love and respect each other, we do it, right? It's creating a choice where normally, if you were given the choice, there would be no choice. I'd be doing this. I'd be fill in the blank. Some would say playing video games, watching a movie, whatever. But people that, like when I talked about in my other topic, people that defend, those are usually pretty giving people. You have to do an extra work to go out of your way to defend something. What are you defending? Was something I didn't talk about much in that last topic, but I said people that you love and cherish. But really, what do you see most people defending? Their own ideology, their own way of thinking, because it's all they got. Some people that have no real God, no relationship with God, their politics, their ideology, their thinking, somewhat their brain is their God. And when you're under that much of a gate-kept mind, there is no choice. It's whatever you think is best, and everything else is not it. It's a dangerous ideology. That's a dangerous God. It loves to trap other people in their own way of thinking and doing. And look at the world. Look at social media. Look at your news. Look at most of your streamers, your content creators. Just ask yourself, what is their work of? And you can boil that down to pride. I heard Methods talking about that just this morning, I think, as I was jumping in. And I can hear the old pastor saying, in the middle of pride, there's a capital I. It's very true. In the middle of sin, there's also an I. Capitalize that too. But it's all about them being right, them being on point, the funniest, the smartest, the wittiest, whatever. And you can tell they haven't changed ever, or in a very long time. And I've argued some things never change. I am not one to, if you are so easily changed, maybe you're one of those people that could just, change your religion in whichever way the wind is blowing for the day. Not me. There are some things about me that just don't change. Whether it's my terrible, dry, not funny sense of humor. I could be very strong-headed about things, and I can be very carefree about certain things. As an artist, as a person that I try to be as creative as possible as I can be, as I can get away with. I have to sort of understand where the boundaries are. So either I can break them, or so I understand where the extremes are. But you hang out there too long, you never know the middle. People live in the extremes of their own mind with pride and capital I, or you have people that won't stand up for anything, even though inside they know they should. You have people that won't give their opinion when they should. They'll only give their opinion if they feel they're in a safe space, or in a place where, it's okay for them to do that. But when it's out in the streets, out in the feed, out in wherever you are, you have people that think they're heroes, but you don't see them standing up for anybody. As a matter of fact, they step over those so-called confrontations. They'll think you're right, but they won't say anything. Or they think you're wrong, and they still won't say anything. That's just as dangerous. Because you're being trained to act and do it and feel that you can only be a certain way at a certain time. Sometimes debates are not so friendly. It's the internet, it's the streets. It's the way it is. This isn't a scripted movie where actors are getting paid to pretend like they're fighting or having a lively debate. This is real life. and people are just tiptoeing the water for most of it. Or you have people that, all they do is hold their breath underwater in the deep end, trying to search for the bottom and realizing they're running out of air. There's a lot more you can do. Like I said, there's a lot of great projects, artwork, video games, movies, comic books that don't get realized for various reasons, but usually because one person can't live up to the potential of a good team. And because you're trying to do everything on your own, the project never gets the full treatment it deserves. And big companies know that and use it against us. They make it so it's you can't break the market. And you have idiots out there cheering so that just big companies are the only ones creating great content. There are some people out there that, I hate to say it, they have such amazing talent, but all they do is steal content, recreate content that's already been created a billion times over, and nothing is unique about it, except for it might look better than what the original content creators ever created, or it might look a lot worse. But that's the best you're going to get out of that type of stuff. And believe me, I've like I said, I've drawn Dragon Ball Z characters all throughout high school. And after that, a group of us used to trade drawings and sell them for $5 a piece. But we knew we can never, technically, this isn't ours. And we were just doing this to sort of sharpen our skills at drawing anime. But we knew we wanted our own ideas too. And we could be creative. When RPGs came out and I played video games like Metal Gear Solid 2, Snake's Revenge, I have a good story about Acclaim. But nonetheless, you realize games were getting way more serious than Burger Time was. Like, I thought Burger Time was a cool game when my dad was playing when I had the Atari. I don't know how I got the Atari. I think it was my aunt's, and someone gave it to her and she didn't want it, and my dad ended up with it or something. I forget how that story worked out, but Burger Time at that age, to me, was a great video game. When I played Zelda for the first time and Super Mario Brothers, and I saw the 3 iterations of Super Mario Brothers, and I realized games were getting way more complicated, and stories and creativity was finally going to be there. It was more than just jump or punch or kick. I realized that we now have more choice. The scope is wider. And to me, it was a good thing. When I see people just recreating the same stuff over and over again, and it's not theirs, to me, it's a waste. There are so many great content creators that should be creating their own content, so the choices become more than what we have now. So you don't have these shows out there reviewing the same garbage year after year and wondering why it's still garbage. The ideologies are sick over there. But there are real great creators out there that build great content. And either they're wasting their time building content that'll never be theirs, or they're just not getting the exposure. Because the greatest content creators or the greatest, most popular channels are all channels that just review mainstream content. And it's just copy after copy after copy of that. If there was better content out there, those guys would be way more interesting because they'd have a lot more to go over. You wouldn't see 50,000 channels covering stupid Snow White and having to play the algorithm that way. They wouldn't need shit like that. Final Fantasy would not be making the mistakes they've made in this current regurgitation. They would, if they were sort of true to how they felt back then, you wouldn't get bad content. And the problem is people know it's shit story writing. So what do? They recreate it. They say, you know what? I'm going to build this the right way. Now where it worked was when they came out with the Minecraft movie. And it was not what the Minecraft people, the fans of that decades of Minecrafting, or decade of Minecrafting. 2 decades? I don't know, however long it's. I don't play Minecraft. Fans were pissed. They said, this is the way it should look. You have people out there not caring. And they're the ones that are in control of the content. They don't care about what you think. They just want your money and they want you to accept it. Now, if you were actually throwing some support at grassroots content creators, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But if all you're ever going to take is something made by a major production, then you're the problem. Because you're just going to continue to say that the thing causing cancer is the only thing you could continue to support. There are plenty of other content creators out there that are doing their thing. And like I said, it'll never get realized. Support, lack of help, will sink a project if they don't put their life behind it. And I know if I'm gonna put something down on my to-do list for that long, it better be something that I'm doing for the glory of God for. Otherwise, I don't think it'll ever get realized. I don't think it'll ever be worth doing. Because it won't bring me any sort of satisfaction or fulfillment. And in the end, I don't think it will for you either. So even in this scene here on screen, where in the background you have this very, very big ominous moon-looking thing with sort of this eye and a circle, and it's looking down at the city as if it's watching it. You got these two characters here. And even though they're sort of doing their own thing, no matter what's going on in the craziness of the world, they know sort of they have a plan, a thing, a destiny. They also have the choice not to be afraid. Not to stay inside or not give their opinion or have action. That, who knows, they might try to take down that moon one day. Maybe it's artificial. But they're not bothered, and they're not in fear. So in this world where you think you've made the right choice and you find out, nope, that wasn't the right choice. This world will offer you all the choices it thinks it can get away with offering you. But God only gives you one choice: serve me or serve something else. Love me or love something else. So I might not be able to avoid all the pitfalls of this planet, this world, and I might overcome some of them. But it's not guaranteed. But my heart, my choice, who I serve, it's one choice. And I can handle that. And the only thing that's changing it is me. I can fall off. I can make the wrong decision. I can go serve the world. God's not going to stop me. But his love for me is always constant. So I'd rather serve and obey him than be owned by the world and hell thereafter. And while I'm in this world, I have the choice. I can call evil when I see it. I can fight for those that I love and care about. And no matter what difficulties or trials and tribulations, I know where my foundation is. It never changes, no matter how the world tries to.